A baseball star was sitting in the wrong seat. That mistake cost him his life. He didn't know it yet, but someone else did. Saturday night, Gary, Indiana, 1978. A car stops at a red light. Another car pulls up beside it. The driver looks through the back window. He thinks he knows what he's seeing. He's wrong. He smirks. Then he fires a shotgun through the glass. The man in the back seat was 27 years old. 8 hours earlier, he'd been playing Major League Baseball in front of thousands of people. Now he was bleeding to death beside a woman he had only met minutes before. And according to police, she was the real target. She survived. She identified the shooter by name. Then she almost completely disappeared from public view. Lyman Bostock had just finished a game in Chicago for the California Angels. Afterward, he drove to Gary, Indiana to visit family. People who knew Lyman said he had a hard time saying no to people, especially family, especially if someone needed help. That mattered that night. After dinner, Lyman's uncle, Thomas Turner, mentioned stopping by the house of a woman named Joan Hawkins. Lyman knew her from years earlier. When they arrived, Joan's sister, Barbara Smith, was there too. Lyman had never met her before that night. What nobody inside the house knew was that Barbara's estranged husband, Leonard Smith, was already outside watching. He believed Barbara was seeing another man, and when he saw Lyman, he made an assumption that would destroy multiple lives in a matter of seconds. A short time later, the four of them left together in Turner's car. Joan sat in the front. Lyman climbed into the back seat beside Barbara. No reason, just where there was room. That was the last decision he'd ever make. Leonard Smith had been watching all night, following them. He was already at that light before they were. He saw what he expected to see, a man sitting next to his wife. He didn't ask questions, didn't consider that he might be wrong. He didn't hesitate reaching for the shotgun. In that moment, Leonard Smith believed he was doing something justified. He was wrong about everything. The man in that back seat was a stranger, a baseball player who had driven from Chicago to visit family, someone who had never met Barbara Smith before that evening, someone sitting in the wrong seat, for no reason at all. Thomas Turner had driven these streets his whole life. He knew every sound a Gary, Indiana Saturday night makes. So when he heard it, just another noise from just another corner. Then something made him turn around, and in that single second, everything changed. His nephew, bleeding from the right side of his head. Barbara was screaming, "That's my husband! Go after him!" He heard himself answer, "I can't. My nephew's been shot." And then he drove. Not after Leonard Smith, toward the only place left to go. Here's what made this story different from every other sports tragedy. Lyman Bostock didn't just play baseball. He tried to give his salary back. $2.3 million. He told the Angels he hadn't earned it. Think about that for a second. In the history of professional sports, has anyone ever done that? The team refused. So he gave it away himself. Not casually, not for the cameras. He personally reviewed every request and decided where the money went. His father had been a Negro League legend, a man who reportedly mentored a young Willie Mays. But he barely raised his own son. When they finally met as adults, Lyman looked at him and said, "I don't know you. How do I know who you are?" People who knew him said that abandonment never made him bitter. If anything, it made him the man he was. By September 1978, he was playing the best baseball of his career, batting .296, coming back from a slump that had almost broken him. He was 27 years old. He had everything ahead of him. And then, he got into a car. Most versions of this story focus on the outrage surrounding the verdict. But the part that lingers is Barbara Smith. She met Lyman Bostock for the first time that night. Less than half an hour later, he was dead beside her. A stranger took a shotgun blast meant for her because he happened to be sitting in the wrong seat. What she has to carry isn't grief for someone she knew. It's something stranger than that. Something with no name. Barbara survived with injuries to her neck. Then she testified against her husband in 2 separate murder trials. After that, she disappeared from public view almost completely. No interviews, no documentaries, nothing. Somewhere out there, Barbara Smith is still carrying the memory of that red light, that smirk, and the stranger who died beside her. Leonard Smith was arrested the same night, still wearing the same clothes Barbara had described hours earlier. The case looked straightforward. It wasn't. His defense argued temporary insanity. The first trial ended in a hung jury. At the second, 2 psychiatrists testified he was legally sane when he pulled the trigger. And still, not guilty by reason of insanity. People couldn't make sense of it. Smith was committed to a state hospital. 7 months later, no longer mentally ill. 21 months total. Less than 2 baseball seasons. Less than the time Lyman had left on his contract when he got into that car. Indiana eventually changed the law because of this case. Guilty but mentally ill. That verdict exists today because of what happened at that red light. After his release, Leonard Smith moved back to Gary. He eventually opened a used car lot on 5th Avenue, the same street where he killed Lyman. Years later, journalist Tom Rinaldi found him outside his apartment and asked him about the shooting. Smith said nothing, just turned and walked away. 2 years after that, he died. And whatever he saw when he looked through that back window, whatever that smirk meant, went with him. Lyman Bostock got into a back seat he never had any reason to be in. He was shot on the same night he played a Major League Baseball game. He never made it to the next one. And somewhere out there, Barbara Smith is still alive, still carrying that night, still silent. If you've never heard the name Lyman Bostock, you have now. Don't forget it. Every sport has an official record, but there's another record, the one nobody keeps. Missing athletes, unsolved murders, deaths that never added up, stories the sports world moved on from. We don't. If this is the kind of story you came here for, there are more where this came from. Subscribe to Unsolved Sports Edition.